So, my name is Lisa Dobias, and I am a senior lecturer at the University of Texas at Austin in the Stan Richards School of Advertising and PR. I've been here for over 2 decades and have had the wonderful opportunity to get to know and work with thousands of students during that time. I actually was a graduate of the same program quite a bit longer ago than that, and had the idea of starting a specialized program in the area of media back then. And as luck would have it, I found out how circular life is when an old instructor of mine asked me to start that program when I came to teach here. And that has evolved into a program we call Texas Media, which is internationally ranked and actually ranked in the US as the #1 place to study digital media. So yeah, that's what I do.
All right. So where did you start to do all of this, like schools and stuff?
Schools and stuff. So I'm a graduate of UT Austin, and I was not very excited about coming to UT Austin, I'll be very honest with you, because I grew up in Austin, and so I felt like it was a very small bubble and not interesting enough for me beyond what I already knew. So I was looking elsewhere for a long time, and I found out pretty quick that was not the best move, because UT Austin was the best school for what I wanted to study. So I could stay here, pay in-state tuition, and get the best degree possible. But I made myself a promise that when I graduated, I was going to go far away. And it didn't take me long to figure out where I wanted to go, because my freshman year in my intro to advertising class, my professor introduced me to a company called Leo Burnett, and I drank the Kool-Aid really fast. Leo was an amazing person and very inspirational, and he believed very much in the power of creativity and in the passion for somebody beyond oneself and in a career. And so I basically stalked them as a company for about 4 years, bothered the recruiters, and when I was a senior, was lucky enough to be able to interview with them and got the job. So I got to move to Chicago, which is probably my first love city outside of Austin. A great city, pretty scary for a little Texan, especially back in the 1980s, to uproot herself and move there by herself. My whole family is from Texas, and at that time my fiance, also from Texas. So it was a very different world than what I had experienced here. And in fact, my grandmother told me that I was going to be killed by gangsters, and was really nervous for me. Gangsters as in, Bonnie and Clyde gangsters. And so it was a different world, a different time, pre-text, pre-cell phone, pre-email. So communication with family was really tough. And it was a big change for me, a big risk. And glad I did it, though, because I certainly loved working for Leo, and experiencing the city was something very different than what I had here in Austin.
So you moved out of Texas and you moved
did.
in Chicago.
I did.
And you started working for Leo Burnett.
I did.
Did you do anything else interesting in Chicago, or?
So, as I said, I feel like life is really interesting because it's so cyclical, and I feel like if you pay attention to things when you're younger, they come back in different ways as you move through your life. So, as I said, I've started the media program here at UT that I started as a student. I wrote the textbook, or helped edit the textbook that I used as a student. All these things are cyclical. When I was also there, I actually got to work with taking an extra class up there at Northwestern University. I got to meet the gentleman who started the concept of integrated marketing communication, which is actually the cornerstone idea that I use in my classes now. So he was kind of the spearhead, at the time a professor at University of Northwestern University. And interestingly enough, he had talked to me about coming to Northwestern and trying to get a PhD, which I had considered doing, one of the reasons I moved to Chicago, but their program was during the day, and my job at Leo precluded me from doing that. I'd have to quit my job to have done that, but that was something I very seriously entertained. So instead, I just took classes with those folks kind of on the side and in the evenings, kind of supplement my learning. So I got to meet a couple of the really big icons in the world of marketing and advertising back back in the day, kind of the guys who started a lot of the big movements that are still around now that have led to things like social media and native advertising. I met all those folks back then. So pretty nifty, yeah.
When you say icons, what do you mean by icons? Can you drop any names? Or?
So Don Schultz is a really good example. He's the gentleman who started the integrated marketing communication. And so he was the gentleman who basically said, all the communication points that we have in our daily day life from the morning until the night are all connected, and that we shouldn't try to separate them into different channels. We should look at the communication process as an integrated one. And so the way that would play out, for example, would be in today's video world. Video would be part of that overall communication mix, and Don started that. And so I got to learn from him, and that really inspired me to carry me forward. I also, the gentleman who ran the international group, who was a good friend actually by the time that I was hired and moved on, he was a gentleman who actually worked his way up. He knew Leo himself. He started in the mailroom and worked his way up. His name was Link Bumba, and he actually was a very important person in the early establishment of the media trade. So again, I got to meet someone who kind of started my industry off and kind of carried that flag forward. And over the years, I've met many people, and I guess again, full circle now, most of my students are now the folks out there who I would say my current students are aspiring to be. So I, for example, have former students who run the monetization group at YouTube. I have former students who run a lot of the different platforms at Facebook. One of my former students works at Google, and she's in charge of the fiber rollout, I should say, in the country. One of my former students is the lead superstar at Turner Broadcasting and does all of the March Madness integrations. And so I guess it's just really interesting to kind of watch again how full circle that is, that now the icons that are out there, many of them are former students, including the recruiters for Leo Burnett, which is really, again, a nice way to give back to a company that I really believe so much in. So now I get to train their future superstars.
So you have all these students that are out doing a bunch of larger projects like you had. How does that feel? Do you want to help them get positions like that, or
Sure.
Is it exciting when students
Sure.
get positions like that?
Sure. So one of the things that I promised myself when I became a teacher, I didn't really set out to become a teacher, it just kind of happened. But one of the things I promised myself was that as an instructor, I was going to do all of the things that I could to be opposite of the things that I didn't like when I was a student. And so I wanted to really get involved with my students. So I know the vast majority of their names, at least their first names. Now my class has grown over the years from about 60 to over 250. So that's pretty hard. It's a big task, but I still work on it very much. And so I get to know them very well here. And then as they move through the program, especially the Texas Media Sequence, that's about 35 students a year. So I know them extremely well. I stay in touch with them very much, and I know where they are. They stay in touch with me. They recruit our students, and that's a super exciting thing. Yeah, so I get to help. I get to introduce them to media at the beginning, and then I get to launch their careers when they're graduating, and then I get to watch them grow and help them recruit as they get to the back end. So that's actually the only reason I really teach. I mean, classroom is great. I enjoy sharing it, but it's really getting to know the students and teaching them in a very passionate way how to be passionate themselves. So, for example, I can say I was one of the first online teachers here at UT. They asked me to do that about 7 years ago, and I was extremely unexcited about it because I felt very disconnected from my students. But I found a way to be engaging still, and I require them to come and log in live every morning, and then I hold on campus office hours and presentations via Skype on a regular basis. So even amidst a very technological, advanced curriculum, I feel like engaging and getting to know the students is the number one thing I can do. So absolutely, that is why I drive as far as I do every morning in Austin traffic to come to campus, is to get to know those students and help them and watch them grow.